Hello everyone. This is a open letter basically to Games Workshop, and specifically going towards the guy that runs the Warhammer Books and Boxed Games studio, Pete Foley. So as a Games Workshop customer of long years, just basically putting my 5 cents in on the latest post here from warhammercommunity.com, 2017, the 23rd of March. So it's that one. Right, okay, so this isn't going to be a QQ. This isn't going to be complaining, that sort of thing. This isn't going to be debate the thing in comments below. None of that. I know what Games Workshop games are like, and it can get that way with the fans. Obviously, they can get that way. This is just really feedback, basically. This is what they need. It appears that that's what they are actually looking for by sharing some of the ideas for upcoming 40k that they are working on, to basically gauge initial reaction. Why else would they sort of put it out to us initially like this? Let me just preface that by saying Games Workshop are moving in a great direction right now. They appear to be listening to the community more. They're taking a different sort of stance on like openness and change. We'll get to that. And the whole idea of, Warhammer community, the website being set up as it is, that's great. Something that keeps them in touch, basically a lifeline, so that we're not just waiting. It's in sort of development hell, and to speculate, and then the rumors that go on within these games, that the people that come forward and say, oh, I've got the latest or whatever, so they can squash some of that with the official word, which is a great thing. Like they came forward apparently and squashed the, no, we're not going to pull up end times like Age of Sigmar Fantasy did to 40k. We're not going to do that to 40k. Anyway, I'm going to commend them for the great steps they're taking in making community. Right. Now, in regards to change, as we've been seeing with the releases, the fracturing of the Eldar thing, and the Primarch, and the whole storyline right now. And obviously it's the prelude to the bigger war that's coming. That seems to be, it's going to hit and drop, and it's all going to happen. The only thing I would say as a cautionary thing to the developers here, right, is this, that for my money, fantasy battles in a lore perspective phased out really fast. We had 6 months of the end times thing, and for players to maybe jump on board that and get all of the spending they're going to spend out of that, and get all of the games they're going to get out of those scenarios that you've released and stuff, maybe give it a bit more than 6 months for everyone to have done that as much as they'd have liked. And then obviously they went to Age of Sigmar after years, decades of stagnation basically within the storyline. It was just all suddenly, all at once, oh, we're going to do something and it's all going to happen. Oh, and the world's ended. And that was my issue with it, rather than sort of saying, right, we're going to kickstart the storyline forward in advance bit by bit, and do it over, say, 2 or 3 years or something. But obviously it kind of looks more like a decision that was forced to be made financially, is what it appears to have been. So yeah, I get it, but it sort of applies here to what's going on, because obviously the 40k universe is, it stagnated, it didn't move forward, and now it's starting to. Now that's a great thing, okay? Applause completely for that. And that's the storylines and stuff, the things that are happening look interesting. It's going to be great to follow. Looking forward to all of that. My only concern is don't let it become too much too quickly. Like, we've had Gilliman rise, okay? And then we've got people around and they're saying like, oh, I wonder who the next Primarch will be, right? And it's not cool if that's the expected thing, and then you were to end up, if you were to end up doing the expected thing of like, oh, we're going to start waking up more Primarchs now all around the place because they've expected you to do it, and that's not fun, is it? See, just to spite them, or just to sort of say, I want to maintain the clarity of this IP, you know, we're going to have Gilliman, you know, he's awake now and that's that, but it's not going to be a sign to bring back all of the other Primarchs or whatever. I mean, a lot of those would be difficult recovery wise anyway. You know, it wouldn't be Gilliman's part that brings them back. Can you imagine the Dark Angels even consenting to allow Gilliman onto the rock? You know, they don't even like themselves, let alone other chapters. So yeah, I can't really see. It's obviously the lion, yeah, in the rock. So and you know, that's just another Primarch example, and there's more that they'd have to go to all these different lengths. So that then the worry would be that you'd have to sort of like ham hock all of these different occurrences together for them all to be woken up and such, and it would just feel very So anyway, don't worry about that. Don't worry about sort of the fans saying, oh, but what about my Primarch or this sort of thing. I'd say don't rush. You've gone decades without movement. You can afford to do things slowly. You know, it's not about how quick you move things forward now. You are moving forward. That's what counts. Yeah. So, you know, don't rush this whole thing out too fast. Let people play each phase of what you're doing, basically. That's my advice. So, anyway, aside from that now, talking about what was actually posted on here, the mechanics idea. So, let me just, again, preface this part by saying that's brilliant that you know, at Adepticon you've decided to share this with the world. You've decided to say these are what we're thinking of doing with the rules, just deciding to include us now. That's a good thing. Yes, I'm not an old fogey that has just like left the hobby and just complaining because, you know, I played back in the day. You know, I'm there with my pre-order for the Talons of the Emperor. All right, so, you know, to use alongside my Dark Angels and such, and Tau at some point, maybe. Don't know about the Tau. I'm quite fluffy when it comes to, it's like, yeah, I have to have a reason. I need to lure everything in to be able to play. And we'll get to that, because that's actually one of the points here, the lure everything into your games. Okay, so, general reactions. My first reaction is that what we've been told here on this page doesn't actually explain a lot, so it's hard to react too much. So all I can do is give the reactions based on what I can see and what I hope they're saying and what I hope they're not saying, right? So the first is 3 ways to play. The General's Handbook has been one of the most popular rules supplements we've ever released. Who'd have thought letting people choose how they wanted to play their games and giving them a clear way to do so would be so popular? It's pretty clear from talking to a number of event organisers that Warhammer 40k would benefit from the same approach. So we'll soon be introducing the same 3 ways to play: open, narrative and matched play for the 41st millennium. Okay. I don't play Age of Sigmar. I didn't want to play Age of Sigmar. I wanted to play the mechanics way of fantasy battles. I didn't want to change anything like that, so I don't know the General's Handbook in this context of what General's Handbook means. I remember the old General's Handbooks, but not relevant here. Okay, so the 3 ways to play. Don't we kind of already have lots of ways to play? That's my first thought. Unless this has got something else, that's fine. Okay, narrative ways to play. I don't see anything wrong with saying we'll give you more ways to play. That's all right. Okay, that's good. Just don't take anything away. Just add, and then well, that's great, right? And then it's like optional. That's good. Okay. Army selection is the next bit. One of the things that comes up a lot is the idea that people should be rewarded for taking thematic armies. It's a sentiment we agree with, and so we're looking at introducing command points, a mechanism to reward players who structure their army like their in-world counterparts, with rerolls and cool army-specific rules throughout the game. Okay, great idea. I play a fluff army. Right, I like to play a fluff army. I'm not interested in the whatever rules, mechanics, configuration, flavour of the month silliness I can do to hurt my opponent the most, sort of thing. I like to play a force that responds to the terrain and responds to the enemy I'm fighting, the known type of force I'm fighting, and those things you can get away with fluff wise by trying to coordinate too, but without saying, oh, this works against everyone, even tournament style or what have you. I wouldn't enjoy tournaments in that sense, keep using the same force and that. The thing I'd say about that, the army selection thing, is don't you already do that? Don't you? Because you've got the pick whatever you want rules and play just all tanks if you like, and forget the organisation chart. Just forget that. Or you've got in the case of my Dark Angels, for instance, you've got the Lion's Blade and all the detachments and allied detachments and all of the benefits and bonuses and things that come with that. And I'm very much looking at doing the Lion's Blade, and I've got the Raven Wing full force versions, and the all Terminators ones, and all the bonuses and things that come with those. That's great, right? Don't we already have that? I'm not understanding. Those come with benefits. What are you going to take that away and give us this, or is this more on top of what we're already getting for those detachments? I don't understand. I don't get that. Okay, movement. We think the move value should come back. No more default unit types. Every model should have cool bespoke rules. Not only would be more fun, but it'll mean you only need to learn the rules for your models. If you only need to learn the rules for your models, it's more open to your opponent not being honest with what he's doing with his models. However, remember, if you have multiple move values, then it's an extra complication, and I thought 40k was all supposed to be going about like streamlining, maintaining streamlined, rather than all this has that movement. I mean, don't get me wrong, I come from fantasy when I really used to like that inch difference between this cavalry or that cavalry. Those little dwarfs are slow and all the fun that comes with that. Not sure about doing that in 40k. I'm not really sure, because like infantry can all basically move the same. It's just all like humanoid types, and then they've got other things in there to be able to move faster. Anyway, they've got what's wrong with the universal special rules. And applying those universal special rules. Oh, such and such has the universal special rule, meaning they get to move in the shooting phase in a bonus way or whatever, faster than you can, or the Eldar shooty movie shooty silliness things that they do, and all the other things that I don't know, called bespoke rules. What have they painted themselves into a corner where everything's got to fit into those? Why not, keep those things and then just add some bespoke rules as well? Anyway, what does that give us really? The movements coming, is that really going to be that different with the movement values? Achieving a charge and an assault properly doesn't feel like it's going to help a lot, really. Maybe just confuse things a bit. I'm not really feeling the need. I see a lot of people say about the game generally, 40k, that it's so complicated to bring people in and all that sort of business. I don't know what to say. I wouldn't like to see anything happen that takes away the tactical ability of deciding what you're going to do, to basically dumb down the tactical element of the game. I wouldn't like to see that happen. So I mean, if any of these changes were that in mind, to make an easier mode version of the game, if it's less satisfying tactically, can't we have the sort of the veterans version of the game coexisting? That would be a thing, right? Right, shooting. Okay, armor save modifiers. This topic comes up almost as often as Sisters of Battle, so we're going to bring them back. Every weapon will have its place in your army and better represent how you imagine them working in your head. Okay, right. So, armor save modifiers. Things have got to be hairy with 40k, with them, like people having issue with the Terminator killer type weapons and all that sort of thing going on, and it's like my saves are useless now, and that kind of malarkey, all those shenanigans. Again, some of it comes from power play, people wanting to stack the things that can cause abusive damage to the other side or whatever, and make your opponent not really enjoy himself that much, perhaps, at the table. Armor save modifiers, based basically on a strength thing like Fantasy used to do. I played that all the time. I don't see a problem with it, I guess. It seems to be the opposite of what they were intending to do, however, to make things simpler. So if they were to be doing that, to have to minus the one off the other, because the way Fantasy did it before was above strength 3 was -1 each one off of armor, right? So strength 4 would have been a -1 off of whatever your armor value is. I guess that could work, I suppose. I guess as changes here, what they're suggesting, it doesn't feel like what I would have expected the game in its 7th edition iteration needs. I'm somewhat perplexed by what I'm seeing. Yeah, okay. I'm not complaining, or I'm just okay. Yeah, and letting you know my initial thoughts. Combat phase. Let's go here. A lot of people are saying, combat units are going to be great now, and all those orcs are going to love this and this. Charging units should fight first. Again, it's like they're going back to Warhammer Fantasy battles. It's like they've got rid of Warhammer Fantasy because it was too complicated. Okay, and it put people off, and they left Fantasy and didn't do the sales. And then they played 40k instead. So they want to make 40k more like Fantasy. Is that right? Then it's weird. It's weird, isn't it? But not just Fantasy, but older sort of Fantasy, as opposed to Charging units should fight for. It's always been the thing with 40k, you know, since I've been playing at least. You know, I don't go right back. I go back to 2005 sort of era, basically. So I know that I'm basically a baby when it comes to, you know, compared to some people. There's always an extra attack for charging, you know. They're saying here, fighting first is more thematic. Yeah, I guess I've got nothing disparaging to say about that. I guess. So they're hoping to work this out well. It will reward tactically outmaneuvering your opponent. Can you tactically outmaneuver your opponent when you can move 360 degrees? Is that really tactically outmaneuvering? I got that when it was movement trays, and having to do turn commands and wheeling and all of these kind of things. I got that, you know. But this, I don't know. You can dictate the combats rather than being entirely initiative based. You control who swings first. Okay. 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 It's a bit weird. It's all just a little bit weird. I'm a bit confused. That's all. Morale. It's no longer all or nothing, and it affects everyone. Alright? We're thinking of replacing break tests with a simple mechanic. Roll a d6. Add that to the number of models your unit has lost this turn. Subtract your leadership and take that many additional casualties. Okay. So that's kind of like a unbreakable mechanic going on there, that everyone's unbreakable, but you know, everyone's just going to start dying from the combat. So okay. Okay, but obviously from shooting, people never running backwards, never fleeing, pinning and all of that would change. Minus to cause more casualties or something like that if you have to do your break effect thing, whatever they would call it. I don't know what to make of that either. Everybody sort of have an unbreakable rule? That would, you know, massively change the games, wouldn't it? That have that are structured on the kind of their hook is based on, you know, them being strong in the ways of morale. Again, like my Dark Angels, with the idea that, you know, in battle they have an unmodified leadership, regardless. So I don't know. It's all very much. You can see it's all very much from the same sort of mind here. I don't know whether to be excited by that. I'm not going to complain about that, but I wouldn't mind having a play test with it first. That's the thing, I suppose. I'd like to see what they are doing. So if there were some opportunities for the old dogs like me to be able to contribute here and in an advisory sense and actually get my hands on the rules and actually play it with them, that would be cool. You know, if there was like reach out things that we could like have a iron-knit community that could assist. I'd love to get on board with this. I'd love to, you know, help in some way. Yeah, so slightly perplexed, confusing, celebratory to what they're generally doing, and the fact that they've given us the opportunity to even react in this way in advance. I applaud, of course, but that pretty much wraps up what I'm driving at here with this video in my initial reactions to things. So we'll see how the rest of the community take this and their opinions. And again, you know, this is just my first reactions, so, you know, don't throw hate at me, And a little bit confusing. I'd like to see better explanations of what they're driving at, and then with those better explanations, maybe I'll get a better sense of why. It would be good to talk with about why they want to do this. All right, until the next one, I'll see you at the table.